Imagine standing in a dense, steamy forest from about 300 million years ago during the Carboniferous period. The trees are taller than any you've seen today, towering over 30 meters high and stretching up to the sky like giants. This is where our story begins, the swamp forests that would eventually become the world's coal deposits. These ancient forests were dominated by giant lycopods, tree ferns, and early conifers, quite different from today's flora. And their preservation underground over millions of years formed the thick layers of carbon-rich material we now use as coal. These weren't just regular forests, these were giants. Picture trees as thick as cars, towering over everything else, their leaves forming a dense green canopy blocking out the sun. And here's the kicker. They didn't simply die and decay like modern plants do. They kept growing and eventually fell to earth, layering decaying wood that would eventually transform into coal. This process occurred in lush swamp forests during the Carboniferous period, where conditions were perfect for preserving organic matter and creating vast deposits of coal over millions of years. You need to hear this. These forests were so thick and dense, it was hard for anything but the most adaptable creatures to survive. You couldn't walk through them without getting lost or stuck in the mud. Imagine trying to find your way out when everything is just green and tall. It's like being trapped inside a nightmare. These lush environments thrived during the Carboniferous period, around 300 million years ago, supporting towering lycophyte trees and giant arthropods rather than dinosaurs or mammals. But wait, there's more. These trees weren't alone. They were surrounded by towering ferns that could reach heights rivaling those of modern trees, casting dense shade over the forest floor. And then there was the water. Vast swamps filled with murky, slow-moving waters teeming with life. Amphibians, early reptiles, and a diverse array of fish species thrived in these environments. Here's what nobody tells you. These forests weren't just places of life, they were also places of death. The trees would fall, creating massive, dark voids on the forest floor, acting as natural graveyards for fallen organisms. Beneath the dense green canopy lay another threat, deadly gases like methane and carbon dioxide trapped in the swampy mud, waiting to release their toxic contents into the atmosphere. The most incredible aspect of these forests is how they have shaped our world today. Every time you flip on a light switch or start your car, you're using energy derived from those ancient swampy jungles. The coal we burned. It's all thanks to the vast quantities of prehistoric vegetation that thrived in these environments. Can you imagine? And then, everything scientists thought they knew about coal formation fell apart. They used to think the coal came from regular forests that just happened to get buried under mud and sand. But now, we know it was far more complex and fascinating than that. These were swampy environments where life thrived, but also perished in a cycle of endless growth and decay, creating ideal conditions for coal formation. Now let's be honest, how do you even picture something like this? It's not like anything alive today. The towering lycopods and giant ferns that dominated these ancient swamp forests were so massive they could only exist due to the unique environmental conditions of the Carboniferous period, characterized by high atmospheric oxygen levels and lush wetlands. And yet, here we're, burning their remains to power our modern lives. Imagine walking through one of these lush forests, where everywhere you look is covered in dense greenery. No open spaces, no vistas, no landmarks, just endless walls of vegetation pressing in on all sides. It's like being inside a living nightmare that stretches for miles and miles. And the mud. Thick and dark, sucking at your feet with every step as you navigate this primordial world. Here's the deal. These forests were so dense they would have been impossible to navigate without getting lost or stuck forever. The trees themselves were giants, creating towering canopies that nurtured diverse ecosystems beneath them. It's like being in a world that's both vibrant and oppressive at the same time, teeming with life, but also challenging survival for many species. Let me tell you something fascinating. These forests weren't just teeming with life, they were also sites of constant decay. When trees fell, they left behind enormous voids in the forest floor, creating dark, muddy pits where decomposition thrived. And then there were the vast swamps, stretching as far as the eye could see, filled with stagnant pools and potent greenhouse gases. And here's the kicker. These forests didn't just die off quietly. They were subject to complex dynamics where fallen trees and debris created an environment ripe for decay rather than regeneration. As more dead wood accumulated, it formed thick layers of decaying vegetation that gradually transformed into coal over millions of years. Now let's break this down simply. Imagine a forest where dead plant material accumulates without fully decomposing. Layers of vegetation build up over time, eventually getting buried under sediment. Over millions of years, the pressure and heat transform these layers into coal. It's like nature's cycle of life and death, creating something entirely new and valuable through geological processes. But wait, there's more. These forests weren't just isolated patches. They were vast swaths stretching across continents during the Carboniferous period. Imagine a world where every place you looked was covered in dense, lush greenery. While the understory could be dark and damp, the upper canopy let plenty of sunlight through to support an abundant array of plant life. And yet, despite the challenging conditions on the forest floor, diverse ecosystems still thrived here, teeming with insects, amphibians, and early reptiles that adapted to thrive in these ancient forests. Here's what breaks me. These forests weren't just places where plants grew. They were also sites of endless death and rebirth on a geological timescale. Every time a tree fell, it created an opening in the canopy that was quickly filled with new growth. However, instead of being recycled back into the ecosystem, like in modern forests, much of this organic matter got buried under layers of mud and dead wood, eventually transforming into coal through millions of years of heat and pressure. And then there's this. These forests didn't just shape our past, they're shaping our future too. The coal we burn today is directly linked to those ancient swampy jungles from the Carboniferous period, around 300 million years ago. We're still using energy from a world that existed millions of years ago. One where the cycle of life was far more brutal and unforgiving than anything we can imagine today. Let's talk about something else. These forests were so dense they created their own weather patterns. Imagine vast jungles with thick canopies blocking out sunlight, swamps trapping heat and moisture, and trees releasing gases that influenced local climate conditions. It's like the forest itself was a living, breathing system cycling through life and death over geological timescales, contributing to the formation of coal deposits we see today. And here's another shocker. These forests weren't just static places, they were in constant motion. Trees falling, new growth pushing up from the ground, dead wood piling up into layers of peat and eventually coal. This cycle repeated for millions upon millions of years across vast swathes of land. It's a never-ending natural process that transformed ancient swamps into the coal deposits we use today. But wait, there's one more thing. These forests weren't just sources of fuel, they were also graveyards on an unimaginable scale. Every time you burn coal, you're releasing gases and particles that have been trapped in the earth for millions of years. Carbon dioxide, methane, and other greenhouse gases that once helped create a warm and humid environment in those swamps. Can you imagine breathing in air from one of those ancient forests, where towering lycopods and seed ferns thrived under an oxygen-rich atmosphere? And then, and I mean this, the part that breaks me is still coming. These forests weren't just places where life struggled to survive. They were also factories producing the very fuels we use today. The cycle of plant growth, death, burial, and transformation over millions of years created an endless loop of energy generation that we're still tapping into now. Let's go back to something I said earlier. These forests weren't just thick with life, they were also filled with death. Every time a tree fell, it left behind an opening in the canopy that was immediately filled with more greenery. But only for so long before everything got buried under layers of mud and dead wood. And then there's this. Those trees didn't die quietly. As they decomposed in oxygen-poor swamp conditions, gases like methane and carbon dioxide accumulated, contributing to the formation of coal over millions of years. But wait, here's the real kicker. These forests weren't just places where life thrived, they were also places where death and decay played a crucial role in shaping our planet's history. The cycle of growth and decomposition was so intense that it led to the formation of vast coal deposits on a massive scale. And every single piece of that coal is connected to those ancient swamps, which means we're still using energy from a world that existed millions of years ago. Now let's break this down one more time. Imagine walking through one of these forests. Everywhere you look is just more green. No open spaces, no vistas, no landmarks. Just endless walls of vegetation pressing in on all sides. And then there's the mud, thick and dark, sucking at your feet with every step. It's like being inside a living nightmare that stretches for miles and miles. But this time envision lush swamp forests teeming with giant lycopods, ferns, and seed ferns towering overhead. These ancient plants formed the world's coal as they decomposed in the waterlogged soils of the Carboniferous period. And here's what nobody tells you. These forests weren't just places where life thrived. They were also sites of endless cycles of growth and decay. The relentless cycle created layers upon layers of dead wood and vegetation, slowly transforming into coal over millions of years. And every time you burn a piece of coal, you're releasing gases that have been trapped in the earth for millions of years. But wait, there's one more thing. These forests weren't just static places. They were dynamic ecosystems in constant flux. Trees falling, new growth pushing through the ground, and layers of dead plant material accumulating over time transformed these ancient jungles into vast deposits of coal. This ongoing cycle of growth, decay, and deposition created the energy resources we rely on today. And here's the final gut punch. Every time you flip on a light switch or start your car, you're using energy from ancient swamp forests. The towering trees that once dominated these lush environments now lie buried deep underground, waiting to be unearthed and burned for fuel. It's like we're still living in their shadow, drawing power from a world that existed millions of years ago. So here's the truth. When you burn coal, you're tapping into an ancient cycle of life and death that shaped our planet in ways we can barely comprehend. These swamp forests weren't just places where plants grew. They were massive carbon factories producing the very fuels we use today. And every single piece of that coal is connected to those lush, prehistoric wetlands, which thrived during the Carboniferous period about 359 to 299 million years ago. And here's what breaks me. When you burn a piece of coal, you're releasing gases and particles that have been trapped in the earth for millions of years, gases that once filled dense swamp forests with a murky haze. Can you imagine breathing in air from one of those ancient wetland ecosystems? In short, every time you flip on a light switch or start your car, you're using energy from a world that existed millions of years ago. A world where the cycle of life and death was far more brutal and unforgiving than anything we can imagine today. And yet, here we're, still relying on those ancient forests to power our modern lives. These coal deposits were formed from vast swamp forests predominantly during the Carboniferous period, 359 to 299 million years ago, when giant insects ruled the skies and huge lycopod trees dominated the landscape. Hold on to this thought. These ancient swamp forests were crucial in shaping both our planet's history and its present. They laid the foundation for vast coal deposits that power modern industries today, connecting prehistoric ecosystems to contemporary environmental concerns.